Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Transformation Talk. I am talking today with Kyeli Smith of Connection Revolution. Hey, Kyeli.
Hi.
If you don't already know Kyeli, you should. She and her wife, Pace, are changing the world in their own way at Connection Revolution, which is connection-revolution.com. And you can go download their Connection Manifesto for free, and it is just an awesome piece that will inspire you to continue changing the world in your own way. So,
thank you.
We are talking today about a couple of experiences that you've had. The first one I wanted to have you talk about was in 2010, 2011, you and I were really writing and talking about grief at the same time.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about what happened for you?
Yes. So on February 2nd, 2010, I was sitting on the couch being normalish and doing normalish things, and I sneezed really hard, and like my whole abdomen hurt really bad, and through this weird couple of days trying to figure out what happened, my pelvic floor had collapsed. And when your pelvic floor collapses, so does everything that sits on your pelvic floor, like your uterus and your bladder, and everything just goes, whoa! It was really physically dramatic, as well as being emotionally dramatic, because I had spent the previous 2 years getting ready physically and mentally and emotionally to be a surrogate for women who could not have their own children, which felt like this big divine calling. So I had this huge spiritual, emotional, and physical crisis all happen all at once.
Wow.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy.
So what did that look like when that was happening for you?
It's like my long, dark time of the soul, where I had felt spiritually called to the path of being a surrogate, and then to have it physically taken away from me. I ended up having to have a hysterectomy because there's not a lot they can do once things collapse to the degree that they did for me. And it was very emotionally shocking, and I would go to the doctor, and I was surrounded by all these 60, 70-year-old women, because that's who it typically happens to. And I was 33, and it was just, the doctor kept saying, I can't, this is weird, I can't believe it's happening to you. I actually had to tell him, I need you to stop saying that because you're giving me a complex. It was really traumatic. I was really detached from spirit. I just closed off, and I was devastated. I was totally devastated.
Now, you had said something about you tried a couple different things. You tried grieving 100% and then grieving 0%. And
right. So we don't really have a grieving protocol in our culture. Grief is not something we generally talk about, and it's not something we really know how to handle. A lot of, especially our generation, we grow up watching our parents grieve silently. They don't talk about their feelings, really. Most of our parents don't. And so when we're struck with something and we need to grieve, we don't have, there's no grieving handbook. And not that, emotions are wild. There's no handbook anyway, but we don't even have any real understanding of grief. So I oscillated between, what do I do? How do I grieve? So I went to 100% grieving, where I didn't do any work at all, and all I did was focus on how horrible everything was, and that is not the way to go. Unsurprisingly, because when you focus on how horrible everything is, you don't get better. And then I tried to go the other way at 0%, where I did not think about grieving at all, and I would get up in the morning and be like, all right, we're going to go, and, crush it, and which is also awful, because then you're in denial of how you're really feeling. And so, but we kind of have that, it's all or nothing kind of grieving mentality, but really it's this slider bar where we have to kind of shift back and forth. And I started referring to it as grief lightning, where I would have, I'd be fine and I'd be going along and everything would be okay. And then I'd get struck.
Right.
Something would happen. Or, 2010 was the year my uterus collapsed. I had to have a hysterectomy. And I am not even kidding you. Like 10 of my friends got pregnant that year.
Ugh. Wow.
And I was like surrounded by all of these people talking about having babies and just feeling so empty and crushed. And not that I wanted a baby for me, but that, just that was what I had planned for my year to hold. And it was just really ironic in a really horrible way. So I ended up at about 60%, where I would give myself permission to grieve when it happened, but I wouldn't force it. And I didn't live in it all the time. And I tried to not stay busy in the way that we generally try to stay busy, but have things to do and have a concrete plan. Because if I was left to my own devices, I would kind of thrash. So I had a to-do list that was very clear. Here's what you do all day. And that helped me process while still moving and not just sitting and being sad all the time.
Yeah, which is so hard.
Yes.
It's hard to be sad all the time.
It's hard to be sad all the time, yeah.
Nobody wants that. Okay, so you moved through this really incredible experience in 2010.
Yes.
And you wrote about it, and I know that really was an amazing connection for me to read about your journey and for a lot of other people because you were so vulnerable and open with it. And then recently, you've sort of, there's been more lightning in your life.
Yes, there has. So many years ago, I was in a car accident, and it messed up my wrist and my shoulder, and I didn't get the proper medical treatment. So now it's been, I think, 5 years, and I've had this dormant injury in my shoulder, and now it's caught up to me and sort of messed up my whole shoulder system and my arms. And I woke up almost a year ago, just like overnight. I woke up and I couldn't type anymore. If I typed more than a sentence or two, my hands would burn and my arms would hurt. And it's a very similar, it's like a spiral. It's a very similar that what happened before, where I'm awfully young for this kind of stuff. And it's almost like having crippling arthritis.
Wow.
Where I'm sort of functional some days and not functional other days. And I have, various things that I eat kind of affect whether I hurt or not. And I found that I don't hurt if I don't do anything, but not doing, I can't just sit around and twiddle my thumbs. It's awful. And in a lot of ways, it's been even harder than my prolapse, where I had to have a hysterectomy, because this is like, I'm not going to have my arms amputated. And it's a lifetime disability. I have to focus on rearranging my entire life around my hands and my arms not working.
And you're a writer.
Yes. So that's been especially challenging.
So how are you adjusting to this? I mean, I know you've really upped your self-care and you've put a team in place, but really, like, you're a writer who can no longer type or write for more than a minute at a time. So
and I hate dictating, which is really unfortunate. I am currently working with Connie of Dirty Footprints Studio. She is an art teacher. She's my mentor. And she said this thing about our heart line, where our heart is on the same line as our hands. And when we paint or draw or sculpt or whatever, that's coming from our heart right out into our arms and into our hands. And that's how I write. I write straight from my heart. It doesn't pass up through my brain. It just is straight from my heart. So when I try to dictate, it has to go up like through my throat, and it just, and I am so bad at it. And dictation is really where it's at for writers who can't write. Or I have a friend who dictates because it's faster than typing. And, that's this coming trend, but it does not work for me. So I have upped my videos. I do video blog posts now instead of typing. And it's really my silver lining. So one of the things that you learn through massive amounts of grief is to focus on the silver linings. Look at even if they're tiny, you celebrate them. And so one of my silver linings has been making videos, and now I'm super comfortable in front of the camera. I make videos all the time. It's not hard. It's really fun. When we had our summer workshop, which is a writing workshop, I did a video course for that, and I knocked it out in a day and a half because I'm used to it now. And videos create a deeper level of connection with my people, and so I feel like we're having tea together, even though we're not in the same room. So that's how I've gotten around it, by making a crap ton of videos.
Right. Right. Oh my goodness. It's just, it's amazing. It's amazing what life throws at us sometimes.
Yeah.
And how we have to dance with it.
Yeah. Yeah. Dancing with it. That's a really beautiful metaphor.
It's really what it feels like to me a lot of the time.
Yes. Yeah.
So I want to ask you too, even though this is going back, part of your story really resonated with me because it's very similar to mine, and I'd love to hear your take on it, which is you didn't write for 13 years?
Yeah.
So can you talk about what happened, why you stopped, and what made you start again?
Yeah, so when I was a teenager, I wanted to be a writer. When I was little, I wanted to be a storyteller, really. I didn't really care so much about how I did that, which is another place where videos have become really awesome because I can still feel like a storyteller. And I wrote, 2 or 3 books worth of super angsty teen poetry, and like you do. And I was constantly writing, and I have worlds in my head of characters and stuff. And I didn't get a lot of support from my family. Writing is not lucrative, and that was what they said. Mm-hmm. Turns out that it actually really is. There was this, especially 15, 20 years ago, writing as a job was terrifying to my parents, especially my mom, who's very logical and practical and was looking at long term. My dad is also very creative and kind of airy-fairy. And so I didn't get a lot of support. And then I got into a really, really toxic relationship. Mm. Like you do when you're a teenager, only mine lasted for 13 years. Mm. And I wasn't in touch with myself. I put everything on hold for my partner and didn't acknowledge my own dreams or wishes or anything ever. And it was really codependent and unhealthy. And when you're in that kind of high toxic level relationship, which we all have in our past, whether it's a short one or a long one, mm-hmm. you can't be creative in the same way. Mm-hmm. It's just, you just don't have it in you. It takes so much energy to constantly be under that kind of stress. I actually call it the kidney stone stub your toe effect. So another one of my fun, weird medical is that I have chronic kidney stones.
Oh, no.
But it's actually awesome because I drink a gallon of water a day. And so I don't ever get, they don't have time to hurt. But when I had one years ago, the very first one that I had was misdiagnosed as about 8 different things, and no one could figure out what was wrong. And it was just this sort of low-grade background ache in my abdomen for 12 months, for a full year. And when I ached like that, if I stubbed my toe, it was the end of the fucking world. That's it. Cannot handle it. Stubbing my toe became this huge traumatic event. But when I'm healthy and I stub my toe, it's like, ow, ow, ow. Okay, I'm fine.
Right. Yeah, beautiful metaphor. Wow, I love it. I'm going to use that. I'll credit you, but I'm going to use it.
Yeah, and that's grief right there.
Absolutely.
When you are grieving, any kind of grieving, no matter what you're grieving, if you're grieving the loss of someone or the loss of yourself or just, a massive transition in your life, that's your kidney stone. Yeah. And you're in this constant ache. So when you're in that place and you stub your toe, which can be anything, that's your lightning bolt, and you're like, okay, I need a day, where you used to could process maybe in 5 minutes.
Right. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
So did you start writing again when you left the relationship?
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I love it. Yeah. So when that relationship ended, it actually ended because I came back to myself. I had this big, powerful ritual when I lived in Chicago, and all my walls, I just broke through all these walls, and I was like, whoa, look at all this stuff. I remember all this stuff. I remember feeling this way. And I had hoped that my relationship would heal and get better as I healed and got better. But the nature of it, it was just too tangled up and too messy for me to get better and it to get better. Mm-hmm. So it ended up dissolving and like, well, kind of exploding really, like they do. And it was kind of crazy, but that return to myself was where I started being creative again and wanting to write and not being able to deal with being separated from that part of myself anymore.
And now you help people change the world through their writing.
That's the plan.
Awesome. Is there going to be another world-changing writing workshop? Is that in the works?
Yes. It
awesome.
Is every summer. We've done 3 of them so far, and it's so much fun. We may change things up this coming summer, which is fortunately still a really long way away. But yeah, we're totally going to do it again.
Awesome. And what else is in the works for you and Connection Revolution?
We are, right now, all I can think about is that we are currently in the process of selling everything we own and moving into an RV and hitting the road. We are going to do the nomadic life, and we're creating this book tour without the book, and we're calling it Connection Across the Continent, by which we mean the U.S. and Canada, because it's too hot in Mexico.
In Mexico, yeah.
Sorry, Mexico, you're too hot. So that is our big thing at the moment. It takes a lot of effort and energy to sell everything you own and move into a tiny box with wheels. Yeah.
Yeah. Amazing, though. I mean, I just love it, and I love that that you can really speak to the transformative power of grief in so many different ways. You know, the relationship and coming back to yourself, and then writing, and then, you know, the whole the dream of the surrogacy being lost, and then really going back to what you wanted to do as a child, which is be a storyteller because you can no longer write. Yeah. Amazing. Yeah. Such a beautiful story. I cannot wait to see what happens next. Yeah. Neither can I. All good things. All good things.
Life moves us in mysterious ways.
Yeah. Okay, so I have 3 quick questions that I'm ending all of these with, and I want to ask you. If you could wave your magic wand and change anything in the world, what would it be?
I would change our sense of loneliness to a sense of connection.
Ooh, I just got goosebumps. I love that. Yeah. I love it. Okay. What brings you the most joy right now in your life?
I love this question. Oh, wow. So here's a tiny wee tangent. All of the grief that I've had in my life has still brought me to this place of joy and excitement. Like, I love my life. I have all of this crazy shit that happens, and I'm still passionate about my life. I would say the thing that's bringing me the most joy is getting rid of stuff. Like, all of this old stuff, I'm purging it out, and I threw away all of this crap, and I'm finding new homes for the things that are really important to me that I can't just sell to Goodwill, and that is just so exciting and fun.
That's great. Yeah. Taking it all off, whatever we don't need anymore. Yeah. Emotionally, physically. Yeah.
Wild.
Yeah, you're living one of my dreams. I really want to take my daughter around Canada and the U.S. in an RV, but I need her to be a little bit older.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's awesome. Okay, last question. What and you're quite an open book, so I don't know. This one might stump you, but what's one sort of fun or interesting thing about you that most people wouldn't know just from reading your blog?
Oh, let's see. That is a great question. Okay, so I'm going to have to reach way back into my past. I used to be, well, I'm still very much a spiritual nomad, so I've dabbled in a lot of things. And my best friend in high school and I were playing with a Ouija board, and I kid you not, we were talking to some whatever spirit, ghost, I don't know, that was telling us about her life. And my eyes, which are, if you can tell, like really pale blue, turned brown for a full hour.
Ooh.
And they were like dark, dark brown. And the spirit that we were talking to had told us that she had brown hair and brown eyes. And we got really creeped out. And I have never used a Ouija board ever again. I was so creeped out.
Oh my gosh. Seriously, I think we were separated at birth in some way, because I have had like one crazy Ouija board experience too, and I never used it again afterwards. Oh, I love it. Thank
Ouija
you.
board. Creepy.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Well, thank you so much for sharing your heart with us today. And we will have your bio linked to this so people can find you really easily.
Hey.
And yeah, thanks again. We really appreciate you being here.
And a blast. Thank you.
All right.